Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Max from the Innisfil Idea Lab and Library. And in today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to make animations using the small screen on the front of the Microbit. Well, what is the Microbit? It's a small microcontroller made predominantly for school-age children in order to learn how to code using real world hardware. It's very exciting, and there's many ways to make fun projects with it. The way that you'll most likely want to get started is going to microbit.org, and of course, take a look around, get familiar, and then click the Let's Code button to write some code. You have the choice to use the Make Code editor or use the Python editor. Today we'll use the Make Code editor, and you might notice it looks very familiar to the code editor that we used in our series of videos for Make Code Arcade. Both of these software environments are made by Microsoft. Anyway, when you want to make a new project, click that New Project button and give your project a great name. I want to make some dance move animations, and so I'm going to call it as such and click Create. And so, once again, this will be very familiar if you were following along for our Make Code Arcade videos. The big difference, though, is that we have the simulator here for the Microbit. So if you don't have access to physical hardware, you can still make all your code and at least have the fun of seeing how it would work on the Microbit. If you do have a Microbit, at any time, you can click the download button and download a version of your code that you can send to your Microbit. For now, though, let's get some dance moves started. I'm going to write my code in the forever block. Whatever I put in here will continue to run and loop forever, which is pretty fun for a dance, perhaps. So to get started, I want to draw LEDs on the screen. The Microbit has lots of inputs and outputs. One of its outputs is its LED screen. It's a 5 by 5 LED screen, so 25 LEDs total. So the dances we make with using the Show LEDs block will have to be creative. We'll have to think very carefully about how we want to show movement with a limited palette, let's say. And so I'm going to start by drawing my character. And he's going to have kind of these fun arms. And so when it comes to animation, generally, animation is just repeated images shown quick enough that our human brains kind of skip out the middle in between and make it look like continuous movement. And so for continuous movement, we just need to stack images on top of each other, and then the Microbit will loop it, and it'll look, a little bit like an animation. You can see there, our friend is kind of waving their arm. And so, of course, maybe the next dance move should be a little bit of a toe tapper. You just keep on duplicating these blocks and make these minor adjustments. When you're making an animation, it's important that each frame isn't too big of a jump, because it'll look either like very fast movement or it'll look kind of abrupt, and it won't seem like it's moving in a way that makes sense. And so here's a little toe tapping friend. So that's not so bad. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames of animation. And to make this more complex, we can do some fun stuff. So I've zoomed out here one click to see our stack a little better. To make this more interesting and more complex, we can do some more elaborate choreography using the logic blocks in the Microbit code editor. And so this center column here includes all our kind of tools to access the Microbit, and also tools for coding in general. And so one thing that's handy is the logic and also the loop blocks. A quick kind of note on loop blocks, which would be really handy for, again, kind of a dance move. So I've clicked that in here, and it's a U-shape block, which means other blocks can go inside of it. And so if, let's say, I want to take a small section of movement, and I want to repeat that over and over again, it's much more efficient to put that in a repeat block instead of having to copy and paste these individual blocks over and over again. And so here's the little leg shimmy. We'll loop back around. There we go. There's our little repeated leg shimmy. Not too bad. And so taking that one step further, we can use logic blocks. The logic blocks are essentially asking a question. They're asking a question if something is true, then do whatever we put in the middle. Well, there are many things that can be true. In the world of the microbit, the word true is always true. So whatever we put in here by default would always happen. We can make this a little more complex. You could, for example, reach into our input category. So the input drawer here, when we open it, again, you see that many tools to interact with the microbit are here. On button A pressed, that's the A button on the face of the microbit. If you drag this out, you can put blocks into there, which is pretty handy. So for example, we can take our whole dance move choreography and put that in the on button A pressed. And then once the simulator reloads, you can see that nothing happens until I press the A button, which is pretty good. For our purposes though, while that's very neat, very handy, we want to do something a little different with the inputs. Another way to use the inputs is to use it in our logic block. So under the input drawer, we can see that there's this kind of diamond shaped block that also says button A is pressed. Well, in a visual code editor like this make code editor, things that look like they click together probably do, and so that true is a diamond shape, button A pressed is a diamond shape, and so we can click those in there. And so now I can put this into my forever block and even put the repeat block into there. And I'm going to take this guy out of here. And so I'm going to say when the button A is pressed, I'm going to only then will I do these dance moves. And so in the simulator, you can see it's a pretty short dance now, just a little bit of toe tapping. And then when I press the A button, it'll do the little extra toe taps and then continue on with the rest of the dance. I think this is interesting, even though it's a pretty short and small animation. I think this is interesting because it shows how to make a more complex program with a very small amount of inputs. And so if you're going to make choreography, or if you're going to make lights light up or do anything like that, having these conditional statements in the middle of your code provide the opportunity to do more interesting things without a lot of work up front. And so if this was a piece of music, you can have the same thing, where if you press a button, only then does a part of the composition or a part of the choreography in this case happen. It can be as complex or even more complex. If I click the plus sign, we can say if the A button is pressed, then do the things in this block here, else do what's in here. And so we can go one step further and click that plus sign one more time. So if button A is pressed, else, if that didn't happen, well, back into our input category, button A is pressed, switch that to button B. So else if button B is pressed, well, let's put a little more dance moves in. I'm going to duplicate this one here. We'll say if the B button is pressed, we're going to do some pretty good, maybe sort of like head bobs. And then one more head bob there. And then of course, let's loop that a little bit. 4 of those should be fun. And then finally, else. So if the A button's pressed, if the B button is pressed, else, if none of that happens, well, we need one more set of dance moves. We'll duplicate this one again. And maybe we'll say we move the head over here, shimmy the leg this way, and maybe kind of throw our whole body to the side. Yeah, that's fun. Okay, so if I press that, else if I don't press anything, we're going to do a whole body shimmy. Click, click, click. So I'm creating kind of a mirror image of our previous character there. Whoops. And then probably should put one in the middle so that animation doesn't look too jarring. Whew. There we go. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Gonna repeat that 4 times. Why not? Okay, so we have quite the complex set of dance moves here. So here's our little side sway. If I don't press A and B, or A or B, I'm gonna hold down the A button this time. And so next time we'll do our leg swags. It's a good leg swag. Okay, hold down the B button for the next time, and that should be our head bob. There we go. Ooh, yeah. And then we come back around. That's great. And so this was just a simple example to show how we can give our microbit some character using the LEDs on its LED screen, and also a quick introduction to our loop blocks and our logic blocks. The loop blocks are really interesting. Of course, you can repeat also while a condition is happening. And then the logic blocks, again, also have many more features that you should explore. The basics are, of course, the conditional if true then. But then also, instead of the button presses we put in from input, you can also do kind of math comparisons and things like that. I hope you'll take that opportunity to explore more features of the microbit through its screen animations. And that's all I wanted to show you for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope we see you on the next one.